I'm here today to teach you a technique for attaching two pieces of clay together. This technique is known as slip and score. Slip and score is a process for putting two pieces of clay together and making sure they stick, even when the moisture has dried out. When clay is fresh, soft, and malleable, it seems as if you can take two pieces of clay, press them together, and squish a little bit, and they will stay stuck together. The problem with this misconception is that this clay is sticky because of its moisture content. As the clay begins to dry out and the moisture evaporates, the two pieces will flake apart, just like dried mud falling off of your shoe. When we use the slip and score method, we know that we can attach bits of clay together and that when they are dry, this is bone-dry clay, they will hold on to each other. They won't let go or pop loose. We also know that if we use the slip and score method to attach pieces, after the piece has been fired in the kiln and there is zero moisture content, it's been fired, the attachments are very strong and secure, and the piece is going to hold onto itself, like this coil pot. So, slip and score has two parts. Slip is liquid watery clay, like this pre-made slip I have here. And you can use that, or you can make your own slip by applying water to the clay. So if I want to make slip, I can take my clay and some water and brush water onto the surface, swirl it around. Do you see that light gray sheen? That's slip building up on the surface as I start to dissolve the surface layer of the clay and adding the water mixture into it. So I'm making slip. It's kind of like the glue that's going to hold everything together. You see that there? That is slip. The next step is to score. And to score is to scratch fine marks into the surface. I'm texturizing here with a potter's needle, scratching small marks into the clay. Make sure they're very shallow, not deep gouges. So this piece is ready, and with the slip and score method, I need to make sure that both pieces that are going to be attaching to each other have been slipped and scored. So build up a little watery slip. That's going to be my glue. And then follow up by scoring it. A few small scratches. And this will be like two halves of a zipper or two pieces of Velcro so that the texture can interlock together and bond. Firmly press the pieces together. Give it a little bit of a wiggle to make sure that they are stuck to one another. If you see a little bit of slip ooze out of the bottom, that's a good sign of a good adhesion. Now, I still have all these scratch marks sticking out around my attachment, so for good craftsmanship, I need to follow up and clean it up. It's really a shame on a finished piece when you look inside and you see big, ugly scratch marks that someone was too lazy to clean up. So follow up and always remember to clean up the scratches. You can take a paintbrush and gently wipe away the scratches, or if they're a little too deep for a paintbrush to wipe away, take a modeling tool, reach into the scratches, and gently press and smooth them away. So that's slip and score one way. Another option is to use a toothbrush and some water to create your slip. You take the bristles of the toothbrush with some water and scrub and scour the surface of the clay, and it kind of texturizes it and builds up slip at the same time. So it's like slip and score all in one swoop. I prefer to make sure that my piece is scored, so you can use a serrated rib. It's got teeth, kind of like a steak knife, and you just scratch the surface real shallow, score, 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 and both pieces need to be scored, so scratch those grooves in there. And then, if you'd like, you can take some pre-made slip and using your toothbrush or a paintbrush or even your finger, apply a little bit, just scoop that slip on there, apply it on. This is the glue that's going to hold it together. So apply it to both pieces, either before or after you've scored. Then firmly but carefully press the two pieces together. Give it a little bit of a wiggle, press. If you see some slip ooze out at the bottom, you know you've got your vacuum seal. Don't forget, follow up by cleaning up your mess for high craftsmanship, and just try to get rid of any extra score marks or extra slip that's messy. Now, you can see I'm lifting it up, the two pieces are holding on, they're slipped and scored. Let's review. Slip and score is for whenever you want to stick two pieces of clay together. You can't just squish them together, because later on, when they dry, they'll fall apart. So slip and score has two steps. Slip is when you apply liquid watery clay. You can have it pre-made, or you can make it yourself with some water. You can apply it with a paintbrush, toothbrush, or your fingers. Score is to scratch small marks in the clay, so texturizing it with some little shallow grooves. Make sure they're shallow. You can do that with a serrated rib or a potter's needle and lightly scrape the surface. Don't gouge deep cuts, because that can actually create air bubbles, which lead to explosions later when the pieces are fired in the kiln. Slip and score are two steps of the process, but you can do them in whichever order you prefer. So here I have two examples of slip and score, both done differently as demonstrated. You can make your own slip or apply it. You can scratch with a serrated rib or scratch with a potter's needle.